Baseball is weird. You might disagree here, but as somebody who's seen over 20 baseball games in his lifetime, I'm pretty much an expert. One of the weirdest things about baseball, though, is the field. Unlike football, or soccer, or basketball, basically every other sport, really, no two Major League Baseball fields are exactly the same. Besides a few hard rules, 90-foot base paths, 60 feet 6 inches from the mound to home plate, the only limitation for a stadium designer is their imagination. Which is how we nearly got this. This is the design for a floating baseball field, which would have stood, or floated, in San Diego's Mission Bay. Now, there have been a lot of proposed ballparks over the years, and even more that have never been built. You'd be hard-pressed, however, to find one as outlandish as this one. It was the 1960s, and baseball was expanding. Americans were moving west, and so were sports teams. By the middle of the decade, rumors were swirling of an MLB team coming to San Diego. To stadium designer Stanley French, this was an opportunity. French was the head architect for a local firm named Boyle Engineering, and he had some pretty out-there ideas. Chief among them was the Mission Bay project, a sports stadium that would host football and baseball games, hold 50,000 fans, and most importantly, sit almost entirely on water. This is just one concept for the floating stadium. It would have been anchored on land by the home plate grandstand, with 2 wings extending into the water, each capable of holding up to 20,000 fans. Sports writer Jack Murphy called it the most daring yet practical concept in stadium building since Houston discovered the dome. These days, you're probably more familiar with the Padres' current home, which is unique in its own way. Petco Park opened its doors in 2004, taking over from its predecessor, Jack Murphy, the stadium this time, not the writer. While Petco Park sits on flat ground instead of water, there's no shortage of other features that make this place one of a kind. Namely, the 4-story warehouse that makes up part of left field. There's nothing else in baseball, or in sports, quite like it. Made in 1909 by architect Henry Lord Gay, the building housed the Western Metal Supply Company, which made materials for wagon makers and blacksmiths. It was a thriving business, but as time went on, the need for wagons and blacksmiths declined, and in 1975, the Western Metal Supply Company shut down for good. The building sat unused until the 2000s, when the Padres, looking for a spot to build their new field, set their sights on San Diego's warehouse district. Rather than bulldoze the old building, though, they had a better idea: build the stadium around it. Today, the Western Metal Supply Company building is the most iconic part of the Padres' home. They've added decks for fans to watch games, a team store, and seats on the roof of the building itself. Instead of a left field foul pole, the corner of the building has a thin yellow strip. Any balls that hit the southern wall are ruled foul, and any that hit the eastern side are a home run. Interestingly, it took over 10 years for somebody to hit a ball on top of the building. In 2016, Padres slugger Hunter Renfroe crushed the first ever home run to the Western Metal Supply Company roof. Then, in 2017, he did it again, off of Mets ace Jacob deGrom. Since then, only Fernando Tatis Jr. has accomplished the feat, making it one of the rarest events in all of baseball. Of course, Petco Park is far from the only MLB field with its share of quirks. If you look closely enough, you'll find that every ballpark has something that makes it unique. From hidden Japanese gardens, to buried dinosaur bones, to bodies locked in freezers, these are the weirdest, funniest, and most unknown secrets behind your favorite baseball stadiums. National League Edition. If you want more videos digging into the bizarre history of baseball fields, like this video and subscribe to Start Raving Sports. Let's get into it. We'll head north from San Diego to LA for a visit to Dodger Stadium. Now, this Easter egg is a bit different in that it doesn't lie inside the stadium at all. The story begins in 1956 when Japanese baseball officials reached out to Walter O'Malley to ask if he and his league champion Brooklyn Dodgers would like to tour the country. One of these officials was Sotaro Suzuki, a sports writer and pioneer in the world of Japanese baseball. Suzuki and O'Malley became fast friends and continued their correspondence even after the tour was over. In 1962, Suzuki was invited to attend the grand opening of Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Wanting to repay his friend for this honor, Suzuki had an idea. He commissioned the building of a stone toro a traditional Japanese lantern, which he would gift to the Dodgers. Stone toro are meant as an offering to Buddha and have been used in shrines throughout Japan for centuries. The lantern, which was 8 feet tall and weighed nearly 2 tons, had to be shipped across the Pacific in 6 pieces. Upon its arrival in LA, it was placed in the center of a newly designed garden on the outskirts of Dodger Stadium. Located on a hill next to what is now Parking Lot 6, this was a favorite spot of Walter O'Malley's. From its installation in 1965 to his death in 1979, the Dodgers owner made frequent trips to the garden. In the 80s and 90s, the garden was cared for by Frank Ego, an LA resident and friend of both O'Malley and Sutaro Suzuki. Every weekend, Ego would drive 20 miles from his home to Dodger Stadium to take care of the garden. Frank Ego passed away in 2000, and while he and the lantern were both honored in a 2003 ceremony, the garden, gradually but inevitably, fell into disrepair. By 2023, the only hint that there was anything of note there were online rumors and a fence with a no trespassing sign. Then, in March of 2024, the Dodgers made an announcement. The lantern, which had for so long sat abandoned, ignored, and forgotten, had been moved from the old garden, refurbished, and placed on the top deck of Dodger Stadium. Today, you can find the toro, a symbol of the link between Japanese and American baseball, in a well-deserved place of honor. For a somewhat less beloved ballpark icon, let's take a look at Oracle Park, home of the San Francisco Giants. In the year 2000, the Giants moved into the brand new, state-of-the-art Pac-Bell Park. This place had everything. A 27-foot tall baseball net, a massive Coca-Cola bottle that also doubles as a slide, $65 pizza. And then there was Rusty, the 14-foot mechanical man who hung on the right field wall, flanked by 4 cannons capable of spraying water up to 100 feet in the air. Now, you might be wondering what the hell I'm talking about. If you go to the stadium now, there are very few, if any, giant metal men to be found. But believe it or not, this was a very real, very weird thing. It, or is it he, was the brainchild of Old Navy, who, in one of the strangest sponsorship deals ever, created Rusty, a robot who would emerge from a shed near the right field foul pole to entertain fans. Made up of 18 movable parts, Rusty could wave to the crowd, swing a fake bat, and even slide into a base. Or at least, he was supposed to. See, it turned out that Rusty was more than just a nickname. In a cruel twist of fate, the mechanical man was no match for the foggy San Francisco climate. He malfunctioned constantly, with public opinion ranging from stupid to vaguely creepy. While the Giants finished in first, Rusty didn't last through the season. The robot was quickly and unceremoniously removed, never to return. The Colorado Rockies are one of the youngest franchises in the league, having been founded in 1993. After sharing Mile High Stadium with the Denver Broncos their first 2 seasons, the Rockies moved into Coors Field in 1995, where they've stayed ever since. At 5,200 feet above sea level, with a heated infield and a stunning view of the Rocky Mountains, there are plenty of things that make Coors one of the best places to watch a game. And then there's Dinger. Dinger is a purple, polka-dotted triceratops, and the official mascot of the Colorado Rockies. He's fun, loves to play pranks, and is one of the most hated mascots in Major League Baseball.
Dinger, seriously? Can you wait for a couple of us to get out? Come on, man. Come on.
He's been called a Times Square sideshow, the Easter Bunny taking a smoke break, Barney after a meth binge. But why? Why do people hate Dinger? Maybe it's his design. Big black eyes, the devil-like horns. Maybe it's his antics, the way he taunts opposing pitchers from behind home plate. Or maybe it's because they don't understand why a team named after a mountain range has a dinosaur for a mascot. Well, I can't explain those first two, but there is a reason for the third thing. See, back in the 90s, when construction crews were building Coors, they uncovered a small fossil. Upon closer look, scientists determined that this bone belonged to a, quote, horned dinosaur, and thus, Dinger was born. So there you go. There is a reason for Dinger to exist. Speaking of mascots that make no sense, why is the D-backs mascot a bobcat? Let me ask that again. Why is the mascot of the Arizona Diamondbacks a bobcat? Somehow, there is also a story behind this guy. D. Baxter the Bobcat, get it, D. Baxter, was chosen thanks to a young boy named Brantley Bell, the son of Arizona second baseman Jay Bell. It was the 6-year-old Brantley who suggested a bobcat as the team's mascot, inspired by the name of Bank One Ballpark, or Bob. Of course, Bank One Ballpark was renamed Chase Field in 2006, so the bobcat thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. Oh well. Now, there are a lot of things I didn't know about these ballparks going into this video, and a lot of things I didn't have time to include. If there's anything you think I missed, leave a comment below. Wrigley Field is the oldest existing ballpark in the National League, and one of the most famous in baseball history. Several things make Wrigley unique. There's the red brick backstop, the iconic red sign, and yes, the ivy. But you know about that stuff. What I want to talk about today is this. This, my dear friends, is a light. Don't be fooled though. This isn't just any old light. This is one of 6 massive light towers that line Wrigley Field, first added to the friendly confines in the distant year 1988. Why did it take so long for the Cubs to add lights to their field? What made them strike down their ban on night games in the first place? And what does this all have to do with Pearl Harbor? Let me explain. The first night game in MLB history was played in 1935 at Cincinnati's Crosley Field. Over the next decade and change, the rest of the league would install lights at their fields. All of them, except one. See, Cubs owner Philip Wrigley was worried that night games would be a nuisance to the surrounding neighborhood, bringing noise, vandalism, and drunkenness to the area. And if you've been to Chicago, you know how much they hate getting drunk. Now, this ban on night games lasted until the 80s, when the team was sold by Wrigley's grandson.
Well, I don't know how I feel about night baseball. It's great in the minor leagues, but it's someplace else to go in town besides your restaurant, which is a good thing.
How's your mother, by the way?
That's not to say the Cubs didn't try, however. See, in the early 40s, there was a push by Philip Wrigley to install lights, breaking with his previous position. By December of 1941, everything was in order. Then, tragedy struck. 4,000 miles away from Chicago, the Pearl Harbor Naval Base was hit by the Japanese military in a surprise attack. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan, officially entering World War II. With the US at war, the 165 tons of steel that Wrigley had on hand was suddenly much more valuable. He donated the material to the war effort, delaying night games at Wrigley Field for another 4 decades. American Family Field opened its doors in 2001 as Miller Park. Located near the site of the old Milwaukee County Stadium, there's a plaque in parking lot 1, marking the spot where Hank Aaron's final career home run landed. Within the stadium, though, is a tribute to another Brewers legend, one that's a bit less obvious. If you make your way to section 422, way up behind home plate, you'll find a statue of Bob Uecker, the voice of the Brewers for over 50 years. If you know us at Stark Raving Sports, you know we love Bob Uecker. So what better way to honor a man who lived one of the greatest baseball lives ever? Rest in peace, Ueck. We miss ya. For this next field, we'll stay in the NL Central, Busch Stadium, home of the Cardinals. Opened in 2006, this is actually the 3rd stadium in St. Louis to bear the Busch name. It wasn't just the name that carried over from the old field, though. See, the new Busch, or should I say the new Busch, is located right next to the site of the old new Busch Stadium. The 2 stadium sites are so close, in fact, that the location of the old Busch right field foul pole is in left center of the new park. This posed a challenge. How do you build a new ballpark on top of the old one while games are still being played there? Their solution was to do it in pieces. As the Cardinals played the 2005 season at the old field, construction crews got to work on the first base side of the new stadium. By the fall of '05, though, a drawback of this plan had become apparent. The Cardinals had won the division and advanced to the NLCS. This was a problem, at least for the builders. Now, with the old park needed for, baseball, they wondered if the new field would be ready in time for the next season. When Busch Stadium 3 opened on opening day 2006, a large part of the left field structure was unfinished. The Cardinals, meanwhile, took care of some unfinished business of their own. So I bet you thought San Diego was the only place that nearly had a floating baseball stadium. Well, you'd be wrong. In 1958, 7 years before the Padres nearly tried it, the city of Pittsburgh considered building a stadium of its own atop the Monongahela River. Sadly, this design was never built. The Pirates moved into Three Rivers Stadium in 1970, then in 2001 to their current home of PNC Park. Who knows whether the floating stadium concept will ever be a reality. But man, wouldn't it be cool to watch the Pirates literally play on top of water? For our next stadium, we're going to cross state lines, where Great American Ballpark sits along the banks of the Ohio River. Opened in 2003, Great American Ballpark, or GAB as I like to call it, is the 7th home of the Cincinnati Reds, Major League Baseball's first and oldest franchise. Given their long history, the Reds have undergone peaks and valleys as a ball club. One of those valleys came in 2015, when they finished last in the NL Central with a meager 64 wins. A low point of this season came on May 15th. With the Reds trailing the Giants 6-2, fans started to notice that something was wrong. Besides what was happening on the field, I mean. Beyond the outfield wall sit 2 giant smokestacks, reminiscent of the ones found on 19th century steamboats. These smokestacks emit flames and fireworks on special occasions, like home runs and Reds wins. This was not one of those times.
Center field, and look at this. Firemen arriving on the scene, 2 different ladders. They've got it surrounded.
The Reds lost this game, if you were wondering. Speaking of trash fires, let's take a trip to Miami, where the Marlins call Lone Depot Park home. Formerly known as Marlins Park, Lone Depot Park, which, if you're curious, requires you to spell it like that, is one of the newest stadiums in MLB. Upon its opening in 2012, fans marveled at the park's modern design, retractable roof, and the $2.5 million, 75-foot tall sculpture made up of multicolored flamingos, seagulls, and, of course, marlins. This work of art was controversial. Some called it tacky, while others said it captured the essence of Miami, which, in fairness, could both be true. Its official name was Homer. Fans called it the Marlinator. When the Marlins changed owners in 2018, it was clear that the Marlinators' days were numbered. Sure enough, the sculpture was removed and placed outside of the stadium. It still comes to life every afternoon at 3:05 p.m., in reference to Miami's area code. On the topic of references, let's head over to Citizens Bank Park, home of the Philadelphia Phillies since 2004. In center field, you'll find Ashburn Alley, which features a slew of homages to the team's past. Stone markers in the ground feature the name of every Philly All-Star. A section known as Memory Lane tells the history of the city's Negro League teams. On top of the concession buildings sit the rooftop bleachers, a tribute to the old rooftop seats found on the row homes across from the old Shibe Park. The indoor batting cage, meanwhile, is carpeted with old AstroTurf from Veterans Stadium. One change that was made, however, was done specially for a Philly legend. When the new ballpark was being designed, the architects asked team members if they had any special requests. They received one from none other than the Philly Fanatic. See, the Fanatic is a bit on the rotund side. Don't judge him, he has a glandular condition. Anyway, for as multi-talented as the Fanatic is, he had a big problem. Doors. Specifically, the Phillies' locker room door, which was too narrow for the mascot to squeeze through. So, in a major win for accessibility, a new locker room door was designed, with more Fanatic-sized dimensions. Much like Citizens Bank Park, Citi Field, home of the Mets, is chock full of homages to New York baseball history. It's built on the site of Shea Stadium, the Mets' old stomping grounds. If you head to the parking lot, you can spot 4 plaques marking the location of the bases at Shea. As you enter the park, you'll find a massive rotunda in the image of Ebbets Field. This entryway, named after Jackie Robinson, was the result of owner Fred Wilpon's obsession with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and serves as a shrine to one of baseball's greatest icons. Inside of the stadium, Citi Field holds 41,922 seats, each of them colored a dark shade of green in tribute to the Polo Grounds. Actually, that's not quite true. See, as of 2025, there's now a total of 41,921 green seats, and one purple one. This is the Grimace seat. You know the story. It's June of 2024, and the Mets are struggling. With a 29-37 record, they call in the big guns.
Ronald?
Yeah, you're right.
Yo, can we talk about this? A stupid good pitch. Like, how, you guys?
Good extension, for somebody with short arms like that. Got a little downhill on the mound, and I thought Grimace, heck of a job, man.
Following Grimace's first pitch, the Mets win 7 straight and make the playoffs as a wildcard team. To honor the one who made this all possible, the Mets unveiled his very own purple seat. It's located in row 6, seat 12 of section 302, referencing June 12th, the date of Grimace's fateful pitch. When it opened in 2008, Nationals Park boasted a bunch of Easter eggs for eagle-eyed fans. Front and center was a massive clock attached to the center field scoreboard with a giant curly W in the middle. Now, they say a broken clock is right twice a day. As it turned out, whoever said that obviously never watched a Nats home game. Almost immediately, this clock, which, don't get me wrong, was very cool, started having issues. It broke down in 2009, then again in 2012, and again in 2013. By 2014, the Nationals had had enough. When fans showed up for opening day that season, they found the hands of the clock removed altogether. To this day, the curly W clock remains unfinished. Who knows when, or if, it will ever be fixed. Before we get to the final entry in this video, I have to warn you that this one is dark. If stories involving death make you uncomfortable, you might want to skip ahead. Truist Park, found just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, is the newest ballpark in the National League. Now, there are plenty of things to get fans out to Braves games nowadays. The team has been good, the stadium is beautiful, and there are a ton of extra events to keep the crowd entertained. Events like Beat the Freeze. You've probably seen it before. Between innings at certain home games, a fan is plucked from the stands to compete against the Freeze, a superhero-like speedster who could beat anyone with ease. So, let's say it's 2018. You're a Braves fan, or maybe you're just in town and want to catch a game. So you go to Google, and you ask if the Freeze is going to be at the Braves game today. And what you find shocks you.
Investigators in Atlanta still trying to figure out the cause of death after a body is found in a beer cooler at Truist Park.
In June of 2018, a body was found at the Atlanta ballpark, locked inside of a walk-in freezer. According to law enforcement, this man was 48-year-old Todd Keeling, a third-party contractor and inventor from Minnesota. Keeling had been at the stadium to install his new product, a patented beer-pouring technology that had already been used by the Twins and the White Sox. Family members told the press that Todd had been excited to bring his invention to the Braves Park and had personally traveled to Atlanta to set it up. It's not known exactly what happened next. The autopsy indicated that Keeling had been inside the cooler when the handle malfunctioned, causing him to suffocate. It was a shocking tragedy, leading to countless headlines, questions from fans, and a lawsuit. And with that not so fun fact, we've reached the end of this video. There are plenty of things I didn't have time to include though, so please leave a comment with your favorite stadium secrets, and I'll try to put them in the next video. And if you want to see a version like this where I cover American League stadiums, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Raving Sports. Thanks for watching.